Chapter 20, Speculations. So, did the aliens take Roy's soul, or was it a deception? If it was a deception, what did they expect to gain out of it? And if they did take his soul, what did they plan to do with it? Are they recycling souls in a program of reincarnation? Before we get into the task of parsing out what occurred at the accident, I need to quickly cover what happened next. Roy had died in April 1976 at age 19, long before reaching his 21st birthday, as he had told Mother. He would not live to see his newborn son. His chest and back had been crushed under the weight of the truck, and just like the warped photo found under the porch steps years earlier, the left side of his head was crushed almost beyond repair. As if looking for indisputable proof, I wanted to see the scar on his nose. Even through the makeup, it was there. I saw that his left hand, bearing his new wedding ring, was crossed over his right, and I marveled one last time at how big his hands were. They were definitely Roy's hands. Yes, it was Roy. But he was not there. No, he was somewhere else. Various relatives were lined in chairs against the wall behind me, sniffling into their Kleenex. It struck me as odd. Here were the same people who in his life scorned him, now in his death mourned him. Or were they crying for me? Steadily and dry-eyed, I turned and announced, "That's not really Roy. He's somewhere else. That's not him." Silent now, eyes blinked, with tissues paused, they watched as I, the poor sister, walked away. Mumbled exasperations ensued. Judy took it hard. She began saying that Roy wasn't really dead. It was all a trick. He was still out there somewhere, and that it wasn't him in the casket, because the casket was too short. She swore he pulled up beside her on a motorcycle one day, and smiled at her before driving off. In anguish, she dove into a reckless lifestyle. Her final take on his death today is that God will destroy the body to save the soul. Roy was changing, she says, becoming angry at all the injustices being done to him. She believes that if he had not died when he did, that he wouldn't have made it to heaven. Because of Judy's involvement with the Greys, I have to consider what she may have been told, or even shown to influence her. But for me, I never shed a tear. Not then, anyway. I had been instructed by the authority Grey that I would not grieve for Roy, and I had subconsciously complied. As I write this, I promise you, it is tearing me apart. Not just for Roy, that too, but for the pain this caused everyone involved. A few months after Roy's death, something urged me to go out for a walk with my baby on my hip. I know now that it was the Greys who motivated me, because miraculously, up ahead, I saw the same two young Mormon youths out on their bicycles. The Greys could have even picked me up from inside the house and dropped me there. I had never before walked the neighborhood where I had moved to with Mark. It was rough and full of drug users. When I spotted the two Mormon boys, I waved to them, and we met in the middle of the street. "Do you remember coming to my house? You brought slides on life after death. It wasn't in this neighborhood. It was in the other neighborhood," I said, while pointing in the direction of my former home. They recalled, so I continued, "I just wanted to tell you thank you. I had wanted my brother to see those slides because he had been saying he was going to die, and just a few weeks after he was killed in a freak car accident. He was thrown from the truck and it landed on him. His chest and the left side of his head were crushed, and his back was broken. He had died instantly. They were shocked, speechless. You prayed with him and asked if he were to die tomorrow, would he be saved and go to heaven. He had not been sure, but now I'm sure that he is in heaven, and I just wanted to say thank you." As I spoke with them, I felt a sense of being watched from above. So, what happened to Roy? Was his entire life staged to bring about a desired outcome? The premonitions began almost the day he was born, when Mother had her dream of the tornado trying to pull him from her grasp through a truck window. Roy was only 18 when he began having a feeling he was going to die. He died 5 months after his 19th birthday. It would not surprise me that he'd been told of his pending death by the Greys. There were multiple other signs and omens. Me at age 8 declaring the ominous date of his death, the warped photo of Roy under the porch steps, the ring with the year 1976 found in the bottom of a muddy lake, and there was Mother's yard sale find, the vase that mysteriously exploded revealing a toy truck inside, and the photo with a robed ghostly hand pointing to a lone grape about to fall. Add to all of this the strange visit from the Greys the night before the accident. What was this magical drink they gave Mark? Remember, They said it would go throughout his body and protect him. My conclusion is that it kept his soul from being pulled from his body when the authority gray, on cue from the escort, raised his hand in the direction of the approaching truck. The palm of his hand was faced out as one would do to indicate, "Stop." More than likely, Roy was pulled from his body before it was crushed. I too was there outside of my body, my consciousness having been pulled up towards the willow tree outside. The timing of us all being there at the precise moment of the wreck is uncanny. It means the gray aliens knew the exact day, time, and place. They had to have known it from the day he was born. I truly believe they were behind the signs and omens, having staged them all. There are 2 accounts after the fact that indicate I really was at the scene of the accident. One being that on return to my body, I immediately recalled hearing the loud tumbling of the truck, followed by a series of footsteps, unseen at the road. The other is that Mark also reported he had heard the same series of footsteps. This should remove any theory that my memories were simply implanted later. Researchers dealing with the Greys report that these beings can transfer their own consciousness, which is soul, to fabricated bodies made of fibrous tissue. Their cloned bodies last for ages, which also means they can follow multiple generations of abductee families, including following multiple past lives of any single abductee. There are even reports of abductees being transferred to cloned bodies of themselves. In research unrelated to abductions, past life hypnotherapists have reported that some clients recall life on another planet. This does not make these beings divine, nor are they angels. It means they have mastered the technology to move consciousness from one vehicle to another. Assuming that everything happened as it appeared to be, and Greys really are recycling our souls, I demand my sovereignty. And even though they have implied that I belong to them, I refuse. As a divine being, I am free and don't belong to anyone. I am a part of the consciousness of this universe, and am no more subjugated as being beneath anyone as they are. Now, it's time to speculate that this was all a trick, and that I didn't see or speak to Roy at the scene of the accident. The problem with this memory is that I recall a sort of dresser with drawers being beamed on the spot where we stood in the woods. The escort gray took out a dark wig and stood away from me. He told the authority gray that they would not be able to trick me, and he replied that they would, and for the escort to stand further back. This couldn't have happened after Roy was supposedly taken, because when the escort returned, he was immediately told to return me. It seems I was really there, but that they did not really have Roy. So, was the drink given to Mark the night before part of the staging? And when the authority gray stretched out his hand towards the truck at the road, was that too just part of the staging? When it comes down to it, I believe everything was real, all the premonitions and omens. And the drink kept Mark from being pulled from his body when the authority stretched forth his hand, that I was really pulled from my body and taken to the scene where I heard the god-awful tumbling and the footsteps. Everything was real except that the escort pretended to be Roy. I know without a doubt that the Greys can manipulate our souls just as easily as they can transfer their own consciousness into fabricated bodies. Having this technology, they could easily set up a system of reincarnation, following that soul throughout lives due to their own longevity. Having said all of this, the only part that seems to have been staged was me talking to Roy after his accident. I was talking to the escort gray wearing a wig. When I mentally followed the escort aboard ship, he did not have Roy. So, what really happened to Roy? Did the escort witness the accident from the woods and really take Roy, then return to stage our conversation while wearing a wig? Or did the escort not take Roy at the moment of the accident, but only witnessed it and then came walking back while pretending to have Roy? In the first scenario, they took Roy immediately after the accident and then staged my conversation with him. In the second scenario, they witnessed the accident but never had Roy but staged my conversation with him anyway. Bottom line, only the conversation was staged. The rest seems to have really happened just as I remember it. If they really took his soul, why couldn't I have really spoken with him? Why did only this part have to be staged? Roy would later appear to me, to Mother, and to Linda. For Mother, she had prayed to speak to Roy one more time, but she wanted to have done something to earn it. A year went by, and she dreamed she walked up to a bench outside of heaven, where Roy waited for her. She sat down, and Mother asked, "Why, Roy?" And he answered, "Because if I didn't go when I did, I never would have made it." This echoes what Judy had said. Linda was asleep in the twin bed they had shared, and Roy appeared. She says that he never spoke, but just looked and shook his finger at her, indicating that he did not approve. I know exactly what she was doing wrong and what this meant. As for my own brief visit from Roy, I was asleep beside Mark when I felt the presence of Roy in the room. He said, "Jennifer, I just want you to know that I am okay." After he said this, I was pulled into a place of absolute love and bliss, but only for a moment. It was so wonderful I thought to shout it out for everyone to see. Then he said, "This was only for you." Roy's multiple after-death visits suggest that whether the Greys took him or not, his soul did survive the accident. In Chapter 21, Mark becomes violently abusive, and I have to flee with my baby to Arkansas in order to escape him. After I left, Linda would have his baby. This is why Roy had appeared to her and disapprovingly shook his finger. The alien interactions would continue the rest of my life. Please like, comment, and subscribe to learn more about this fascinating subject.